In this class, we will be doing quite a bit of graphing. We'll be graphing straight lines and also some non-linear graphs later in the year. And in order to be able to graph, we need to understand the coordinate plane. And so these are some very basic notes. Hopefully they're a review of coordinate plane graphing that you did last year. So the first thing is that the coordinate plane looks like this. I've got two lines that cross each other. And in the center is a very special point that is called the origin. So please make sure that that is labeled on your notes. The origin is the point 0, 0. And go ahead and mark that right there. Origin is the center or the beginning of something. The origin of a plant is a seed. So you can think of that this is the beginning of where we will graph everything. And that's going to be important in our lesson today. The other thing that I need you to write down is that this area over here is called quadrant 1. This area is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. The other two things on this graph that we'll see on the next page are the labels for these axes. Remember, you can pause this video if you need to continue to write down those notes before we move on. So on this page, I still have those quadrants labeled, starting here with 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're going to add on to your graph that this line right here is called the x-axis. The x-axis runs horizontally, and this is the first part of our ordered pairs, or our coordinate points, and we will see that on the next page. The other axis, which runs vertically this way, is called the y-axis. This is always the x-axis, this is always the y-axis. The y-axis tells us our vertical position on the graph. So on this page, we're going to label the coordinates of these points, and these are called ordered pairs. They're called ordered pairs because they are a pair of numbers and they go in a very specific order. So on your notes, please make sure that you have written down as a definition, ordered pair. And an ordered pair always goes x, comma, y. Remember, x will tell us where we are left or right of the origin, and y will tell us where we are up or down from the origin. So I'm going to have you write this in one other way right here. The first coordinate tells us to move left or right, comma, followed by the second point, which tells us to go either up or down. So here is a point labeled letter A. And I always use that origin that I marked on the first page as my starting point. So I need to move left or right. How do I get to this point from here? Well, I need to move left 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And in this direction, these are the negative x's. So I've moved -4 so far. And then to get up here, I've gone up 2. So moving up will give me a positive y. So moving down must give me a negative y. And we've seen that moving left will give me a negative x. Moving right will give me a positive x. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that line and start with my next point. I always begin at the origin and I move left and right first. So how do I get to point B? I move to the right once. And how did I finish? I moved up once. So to get to point B, that point is at 1, comma, 1. I'm going to just erase that mark. And let's talk about point C. I'm going to start at the origin, and I'm trying to move to this point, and I always move left or right first. In this case, I'm moving to the left one time, and remember that's the negative direction, so I've gone -1. And then I've moved down 1, 2, 3, 4 more times to get down here, and remember this is a negative direction. Left is negative, down is negative. So to get to point C, I went -1, comma, -4 to get to that point. And my final point on this page over here, point D, I'm going to start at the origin again. And I always move left and right first. So this time I'm moving to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to the right. And down, which is -1 time. What I want you to notice on your graphs here is that the points in this quadrant 1, both the x and the y are positive. In quadrant 2, the x is negative and the y is positive because we're above this line here. In quadrant 3, I've got 2 negatives. The x is negative and the y is negative because I've traveled left and down, which are both negative directions. And over here in point D, I've got a positive x because I've moved to the right, and a negative y because I have moved down. On this page, I'm going to now be placing these points onto the graph. So doing the opposite of what I did before. Before I had a point and I labeled it. Now I have a labeled point. I need to decide where it goes. I'm going to skip this one for now because that seems a little bit hard. I'm going to go to this one, -3, 2. I'm going to drag this purple dot to the origin and then do what this says. -3 tells me to go left 1, 2, 3. +2 tells me to go up 2. So that's where that point belongs. -3, 2. I always move left, right first. So here's my origin. It says 2 to the right, 1, 2. And the second number tells me to move down 1, 2, 3. I moved down because it was negative. Beginning at the origin, -1 means left 1. -4 means down 1, 2, 3, 4. Beginning here at the origin, 2, that means 2 to the right, comma 5, that must mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So now let's go back to this one. 5, 0. That first number tells me to move left and right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, +5. And because this says 0, that says that I don't move up or down. That point must be right there on the x-axis. I've got 2 games for you. This first one is super fun. Help destroy space aliens using coordinates. tinyurl.com/carnscoord, COORD2. Or you can go to tinyurl.com/carnscoord, which is a different game. It's very fast-paced. The more you answer quickly, the more points that you earn.